Right, good morning people of YouTubes. I'm going to start by apologising for the lack of content recently. Things get in the way. I've had a lot of customer work came in which just overruns, and yeah, you know, when you run your own business it's difficult to juggle business with pleasure. Business always comes first, unfortunately, but I've got a gap in the diary. We're going to crack on and get this rear subframe out, because as I said in my previous subframe videos, they are sold, and just need to get them gone now because I'm tripping over them, all these subframes in the workshop, and as you can see, the workshop is pretty full at the minute. So yes, we're going to get on and do the subframe, rear subframe, so engine, gearbox, subframe, all at the bottom. We've got another engine that we've just recently built. Previous videos, search them, you'll come across them. That's got to go into the new TF subframe with the gas shocks and all that sort of jazz. But we need to use the original gearbox, clutch and flywheel assembly. So we're going to have to pick all that out of the subframe, and there's a few bits off that subframe that I'll need, like the main body mounts and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're just going to get on and get this all dropped at the bottom. I haven't got no coolant to drain, I haven't got no oil lines to contend with. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by draining the gearbox oil, releasing the hubs and taking the shafts out. So I'm not fighting to do that off the car, it's easier to do it on the car. And then hopefully we can lower it down the pallet, disconnect the gear cable, start motor cable, clutch cable, a few wires, and that should just drop out the bottom. Oh, and the exhaust, when you take off the exhaust as well. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible while designing this car, so these can be dropped out in about half an hour, is my goal anyway. So yeah, but we've done some other jobs on this car while I've been away, doing other things. So as you can see, it's looking pretty bare at the top there. And if we go inside, we've got the entire dashboard out. Now, I'm converting this car to a MEMS-free car. So I've taken a wiring harness from an MGF MEMS-free. I've taken that home. I've stripped out all the wires that I need to strip out, adapted it for all my stuff, so all the switch panel, the rain light, everything. I've incorporated all that into the loom. I'll stick some pictures in of what the process has been. I haven't recorded anything just purely because it's not complicated, but you need your full concentration to read through the wiring diagram, see which wire do what. You know, some of it's pretty simple, you know, removing all the door stuff, so central locking, electric windows, electric mirrors and all that sort of stuff. We can just trace all them wires to the back, trace them all to the body control unit, which is part of the fuse board, and just take them out. But things get complicated when you're removing the 5AS immobilizer. So you just need to just trace all the wires that you remove from there, just to see which ones you're cutting and which ones you can't cut, because there's a couple that you need to earth out for the starter relay and all that sort of stuff. So it gets a little bit complicated in that sense. So so we've got all that to go in. Obviously, I've still got to rip out all this wiring harnesses yet, but I still wanted this drivable to get it onto the ramp to get to this point, in a sense. So, and the other thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to lower the seat base frame, but without not doing it correctly, I'm going to have to cut the floor out and put a flat floor on it. I'm not too sure on the regulations on that, whether I can replace all this floor here, because you can see it's all lumpy and bumpy, with just to cut all this out and just replace it with a flat piece of metal. But in the meantime, I've decided against it, and we're just going to run the standard bars that I've been running, and we're just going to have to live with it for this season, and maybe next season we'll then look into that when we get some clarification on the regulations on that. Yeah, so that is that for what's been going on with this. As I say, I've just been getting on and doing bits as and when I got a spare 10, 15, 20 minutes, and the wiring harness I've been doing at home anyway, in the evenings. So yeah, that is that. In other news, I've had a package delivered, and that is a rollover jig for this. So hopefully we can get this on a jig, and then that's a wheeled jig as well, so we can get it outside and get all this grime and dirt steam cleaned off, and all underneath off as well, just so it's a lot nicer to work on, and then we can move it sideways and back ways, and it just hopefully, although it's going to take out a little bit more room because the jig's going to come up pretty much to the end of that ramp, and pretty much that ramp will be able to twist it at an angle as well, and we can pull it backwards and forwards, and you know, it just makes things easier when you can move stuff about, basically. And also the unit next door has now become vacant, so I've put my interest in on that, so hopefully we'll be able to move into that and expand a little bit. But we're still waiting on clarification on that. Yeah, the landlord might not want me to go into there. Maybe he's had enough of all my shit kicking around and don't want any more. But we'll put our interest in, and we will see what happens. So I think that's enough waffling for the minute. We're going to crack on and do this. I'm going to whip these wheels off. I'm going to pull the shafts out, drain the gearbox oil, get the exhaust off, and then drop the whole thing out of the bottom. Do I put you on time lapse? The thing is, I've got my phone at the minute, so I can't really time lapse you, because if I get a call, then I won't know that I've got a call, if that makes sense, without looking at the phone, because it doesn't ring when I'm recording. I just get a little notification on the screen. But in good news, I have found my GoPro. It is on charge, so maybe next time we'll get that in, and that can be our time-lapse camera, and we'll use my phone for all the talk and the jazzy stuff. Right, let's crack on. Let's get some stuff out and get this engine and gearbox out of the bottom.
Right, so I thought I'd stop here and sort of explain what I've been doing, flitting around. So all underneath I think is pretty much done. The only thing we need to worry about is the battery cable to the starter and the hydraulic line for the clutch, but we need to access them from the top down to underneath. So what have I done? Removed the exhaust, removed the roll bar, because you need to remove the roll bar to access the mounts. Removed calipers, drained the gearbox oil, and as you see, spilt it everywhere as the roll bar came down and hit it. Got the drive shafts out, bottom bellows and bolts, bottom engine mount, just because that it's easier to disconnect things when it's on the wheelie pallety crate thing that I use, and when it's on there you can't get underneath there to disconnect anything. So we do it all on the car, so then all we've got to worry about is the top stuff. Yeah, coolant lines, haven't done coolant lines yet, there's no coolant in it, so we just need to remove them. There's just a couple of Jubilee clips, the main ones. Obviously we don't want a heater in this, so we ain't got to worry about the heater lines, because that's just little 180 silicon bend on there just to bypass the heater. Yeah, that is it at the minute. So the next thing I'm going to do is going to drop it on the floor and get all the stuff off the top, the wiring, clutch and battery line, ABS sensors, disconnect. We're not running ABS. I was going to plan on running ABS, but the wiring loom that I got when I started pulling it apart didn't have positions for ABS, so it looks like I'm going to be deleting the ABS, which is, I didn't really want to do that, but it is what it is at the end of the day, without stripping this loom out and putting it all in that new loom, which could be done. The trouble is it's being converted from MEMS 2 to MEMS 3, so the wiring might be a little bit different. Without checking on the wiring diagrams, I don't know. But we're just going to not run ABS. As I say, it's just something less to disconnect when we have to change the engine after the first race, because that's what I'm expecting, the amount of engines we've gone through at the minute. But yeah, let's get this down on the floor, let's disconnect everything on the top, and then we can then get it onto a crate and undo the subframe mounts and remove it from the subframe. That first clip that you saw was about 20 minutes, 19.5 minutes long. So we're well on the way to being half hour, 40 minutes on removing this engine. So let's stop waffling, let's crack on, let's get it done and get it out. Right, again, I thought I'd pause you here just to explain what I've done. So, header tank is removed, the dipstick fill tube is removed, vacuum throttle cable is removed, engine bay temperature sensor, just took that out because that goes under one of the header tank hoses that we're going to leave on the engine. ECU all removed, fuel lines, ABS sensors both sides all removed, the intake pipe is all removed, charcoal canisters removed, the starter motor cable is all removed, which is just that one down there, and the clutch cable, or the clutch hydraulic line, which is that red line with a yellow band on it. So now we're just going to lift it up, pull the battery cable and the clutch line out, undo them two main water hoses, and then crack off all the bolts for the subframe mountings. So there's 8 on the back and 4 on the front. Just crack them off just to make sure they'll come out easily. Lower it down on the crate, and then we can whiz out all the mounts with electric ratchet, and then hopefully we can lift the car up in the air and the engine will stay on the crate. That's the goal anyway. Right, let's just get all my tools off to the side onto the bench and then get it up in the air and just disconnect them lines. I'll get it down on the crate, and once I'm ready to lift it up, I'll then come back to you, and then we can have the big reveal of what's left. Right, we've got everything disconnected, or so I hope. I've got the subframe lowered on the little supermarket skateboard thing. All the bolts are undone for the mounts, so hopefully it'll be a case of just lifting the car up, and the engine, gearbox and subframe will stay on the floor on the little wheelie thing. So yeah, I'll get you set up, and then we'll just start lifting up and checking around every few inches just to make sure everything's nice and clear. The only issue that I had, well, not really an issue really, is that obviously had all the front apart, so I drained all the coolant for the front, and when it comes to the back, thinking that it was empty, it wasn't empty, and about 2 litres of coolant went on the floor. As you can see, it's damp. I've had to mop it all up again. So we're sort of like fighting that, trying not to slip over at the minute. So yeah, again, thinking that was empty, I didn't put a tray underneath it, I just pulled the hose off and gushed out with water and coolant. Right, let's get you set up and let's get on to getting the body up out of the way so we can reveal the subframe. Right, there we go. That is all out. Nice and simple. As I say, I'll try and make these as simple as possible when we take them out on these race cars, just because it's, if you ever need to change anything quickly, sometimes it's easier just to drop the whole package like this out the bottom to do anything, you know, for the sake of an exhaust and some wires, bolt and some mounts and stuff like that, and coolant hoses. Again, as you can see, no heat hoses because that's all teed in, that's all bypassed there. So yeah, next thing is going to be removing the engine and the gearbox from the subframe and picking it out, removing the stuff off the subframe that we need to remove. And for the new subframe, again, it's just, I think it's just the mounts and the engine and gearbox cradle. The rest of it is pretty much all dedicated to an F, like suspension wires and hubs and all that sort of stuff. So I'll get the old cherry picker around, the old engine crane round, and we'll see about getting all this out, and then probably leaving it there. Just trying to get a video out to you guys for this weekend, being it's a bank holiday weekend, give you something to watch. Yeah, so we'll continue and just stripping all this out. I don't think I'm going to put it all back together today, so I might make that into another video, so probably a little two-part video on this subframe conversion. But yeah, right, let's get the engine gearbox assembly out and get all this subframe broken down, so at least I can message the guy and say they're ready to collect when he is ready to collect them, because being a bank holiday weekend might be more ideal for him to come collect them over the bank holiday weekend than it would be any other time, basically. So engine crane, engine gearbox out, subframe mounts out, and then we'll start setting up the other subframe on the crate. This crate here has only got 2 caster wheels, the other ones are straight, so I'm going to have to use one of my other crates which have got the 4 casters, which makes it a little bit easier to maneuver when you're trying to put it all back in and get it all lined up. So yeah, let's get all this apart. Once I've taken it all apart, I'll then come back to you and show you what we're left with, and probably end the video. Right, we've got it stripped down as much as we need to. Gearbox is off, flywheel is off, clutch is off, and all the subframes are over there ready to be collected. Yeah, so the next plan is I need to get one of my other supermarket trolley things, because that one there has got 2 fixed wheels, where the other ones I use got 4 fixed wheels, or 4 caster wheels, sorry, which makes it a little bit easier to maneuver about. And then we can plonk that subframe on top of it, get that engine and gearbox all mated up. I've still got to do the rear main oil seal when it comes off. Yeah, and then we'll get it all shoved back up into the car again. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. We'll continue on in part 2, putting it all back together again. But for now, this is all stripped apart. That will be a big milestone, because I need to get rid of these subframes and get them paid for, in a sense, so we can get some tyres on order for for the 16-inch wheels that we'll be running, which are these ones on the wall here, which are the MGF trophy wheels. So yeah, and then I'm just going to stick 2 tyres on these ones and just take them for spares. I'm not going to run wets or anything like that. The tyres that I'm going for are going to be sufficient enough for dry and wet. You know, I'm not competing up the front at the minute, so I don't think any wets will be necessary. Even if I start the race and finish the race in last, I'll still get points. As I say, we're not competing for the top of the table. You know, it's just a case of starting the season and finishing the season this time. And we'll be in Class F, so we'll be against other classes of MGF and TF. Right, as I said, that's going to be enough on this episode. Yeah, I'll continue on this later on today, tomorrow, over the bank holiday weekend for next week's video. And just continue on basically and getting everything put back together onto the new subframe, getting it all bolted up into it and getting it mobile, because I need to get this off the ramp and my TF is needed to come onto the ramp, and I've got to do exactly the same again. I've got to drop all the engine and subframe down out of that because I've got a broken gear cable. And the gear cable, if I show you on this one, it'd be a lot easier to show you on this one. The gear cable broken is this bottom one. Let's zoom you out a little bit. Is this bottom one that goes to the bottom of the box, which is the to and from. Like the first to the second, third to the fourth gate, if you know what I mean. And this bolt here runs right in the line of the subframe, and I tried to get it off with a ratchet spanner and that's just rounded off. And trying to get to these bolts here, again, you can get to this one. I've got this one out. I've got that one out. Again, that one runs to the bottom of the subframe. That one's missing actually. But on the other one, that's these 2 bolts here that are rounded off and I can't get to it. So I'm gonna have to drop the whole subframe down and sort that out. And in the manual, it do say that you need to lower the front half of the subframe to gain access to these bolts. So yeah, I could just lower the subframe, but I think we'll just take it out. You know, it's just a case of disconnect, pretty much the same as what we've done here, apart from that I've obviously got the heater matrix, which are on quick connectors. So yeah, I need to get this off the ramp so I can carry on with that, because the weather's starting to get nice and the wife wants to use it. So yes, that's it. I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I've talked enough, so I'm going to leave it there for today, and we'll come back to you next week where we're going to be putting it all back together again. See you later.